Hello, it's Alicia, and this is the first episode of my haunted experience on Craig Road. Um, this is the house. Let me get in there closer. That I'm going to be talking about. Um, Here's another picture. This is while we lived there. So, um, basically, all started. We moved in back in, let's see, so I was 17 back in 2000. And I knew right when we went and looked at the house that something was off about it. I've always seen things my entire life, everywhere I have lived, but when I first went there, I didn't see anything, but I could just tell that, like I said, something just was not right. So it was probably it took us a while to move, to get everything moved in because there was an older couple that had lived there before us, and they didn't take very good care of the house, and it had roaches and everything else. So we had to get the house like fumigated and just have certain things done before we moved in. So the first night we were there, I was upstairs in my room and I heard what sounded like someone walking down the hallway. Um, so I just thought it was my mom or my stepdad. So I just kind of brushed it off. And then I realized that it was probably, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes later that there was car lights coming down the road and they pulled into the driveway, and it was my mom and stepdad, so no one was there. So that was probably the first thing that I had noticed. Um, Moving forward, it was probably about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and I was downstairs in the kitchen. No one was there. It was probably about, probably like around 4 p.m. Um, I heard what sounded like music. And so I looked outside thinking maybe someone was driving on the road with really loud music on. I walked outside. There was no music outside. When I walked back inside, there was music. So I kind of go and I follow it. And I could not find a source of the music at all. So that kind of freaked me out. I called my mom at work and I had asked her, "Is there something here that's playing music?" And she's like, "No. Like, what are you talking about?" And I'm like, it's playing music." My mom's always had antiques. She worked at an antique mall for, I don't know, 15 years. So I mean, she collected antiques. She sold antiques. So our entire house was filled with antiques, and I thought maybe she had like some antique music player or music box somewhere. And she's like, "No, I do not have one of those." So I keep hunting, and I couldn't find it. And then all of a sudden it stopped. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, she has something somewhere that she just doesn't know about. Then it was probably about a week after that. Same thing. I was upstairs in my room and I heard footsteps. And at this point, I knew no one was home. So I get up and I kind of like go over to my door and I creak the door open and I look out, and I had seen something out of, like, when you turn your head and you look, I had seen something what looked like it moved from the hallway to a bedroom. So I kind of stood there for a minute and I debated to myself, like, should I go look, and so of course, I did. So I kind of, slowly creeped down the hallway and I go and I peek my head around into the one room, and the curtains were swaying back and forth. There was the house there, the air conditioning was not on. There was no heat on. There was no windows open. So I instantly took off and ran downstairs and, called my mom, freaking out. And of course, she just tells me it was probably a draft. It's an old house, just the normal things that a parent's gonna tell a kid. Well, later that it was later that night. My mom was home and she was downstairs in the kitchen. She just got done making dinner and she was sitting at the kitchen table. And I was not there. So she said that she heard me say something from a different room. And she said that she was almost having what was like a conversation. So then when she got up and because she kept asking, well, why don't you come in here and talk to me, like I can't hear you. And when she got up to go look, she realized that I wasn't there. So she calls me and she says, where are you at? And I explained where I was at. And she said, I could have swore I was just talking to you. And I said, well, you weren't talking to me because obviously I'm not there. So that was one of the experiences that my mother had. She didn't have too many, and that's the reason why she thinks, like, she'd always say, like, oh, it's just your imagination. But everyone else in the house did. So it was just kind of weird that they didn't really mess with her. But, so it was probably about a month after we were there. I was laying in bed, and I heard what sounded like a really loud bang downstairs. So I get up, and this is probably, I don't know, about 11 p.m. And I go downstairs, and I'm looking around trying to find the source of the bang. It was, I don't know how to describe it. It almost seemed like it was like in the walls because just the way it echoed throughout the house. So I'm going downstairs. I'm looking for, something that could have fell. I didn't know if something blew up. I mean, it's an old house, so it was built in 1900. Something could have went wrong. So anyways, I'm down there trying to figure out what this noise was, and I couldn't find it. So I'm getting ready to walk back up the steps, and this really loud bang happened again, and it was so loud that it sounded like a bomb going off. So it freaked me out. And I get my shoes on and I run outside. And I try calling my mom. She's not answering. So I call my stepdad. He answers and he's like, I'm on my way home. I'll be there in a minute. I'm like, okay. So he gets home. He's looking around and he's like, oh, I don't hear anything. Maybe it's just the house settling. Okay, well, the house settling is not gonna make a noise like that. So my mom gets home, same thing. She's like, Alicia, you're just hearing things. It's an old creaky house. You're just paranoid. And I'm like, I know what I'm hearing. Like, this is not an average bang, like a creak or a house. I mean, this house is built in 1900. I'm pretty sure it's done settling, but it's just, it was, no one took me serious. So I had a friend come over and stay the night one night while my family was going to be away. And so we're sitting downstairs on the couch. We're watching TV, watching MTV, music videos, just hanging out, talking. And can you please go lay down? I do not want your poop right now. So Charlie, go lay down. Go. So like I said, we're downstairs just watching MTV and chit-chatting, talking about girl stuff, boys, whatever. And my friend gets up and goes in the kitchen to get something to drink. And she comes back in and she says, there's someone standing in your kitchen. And I'm like, what? There's someone standing in my kitchen. She said, well, I mean, no. She's like, I don't know. She's like, I walked in. She was like, and I seen them, but then they were gone. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, then you just seen a ghost. And she's like, no, that's not possible. And she's like freaking out. And so I sit her back down into the living room and I'm sitting there talking to her. And I said, look, I haven't seen anything yet. I said, but I've seen some really weird, like heard, really weird stuff basically. And I said, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me. And I said, what did it look like? Everything else. She said, I don't know. It was just so fast. She said, I just looked over. Someone's there. Look, and I look away, look back, and they're gone. So she was completely weirded out, and trying to get her to calm down was pretty hard. But eventually I got her calmed down about after an hour. And I said, I've been staying here for about a month. I said, if anything bad was going to happen, I'm sure it would have happened by now. And she's like, yeah, you're right. So it was probably about 12:30 a.m. We decided to go upstairs and go to bed. And my mom and stepdad weren't home. They were out at I think they were out at the bar, to be honest. And so we're upstairs and we're laying in my bed, and we're just talking about things that we went to two different schools. So we were talking about stuff that's going on at her school, some about stuff that was going on at my school. And all of a sudden I heard that really loud bang again. And I looked at her and I said, you heard that, didn't you? And she said, yeah. She's like, that, what is that? Like, that was so loud. So I get up and she's like, no, don't go down there, don't go down there. So I'm like, I'm gonna go down there. I gotta make sure it's, I didn't think it was anything with the house, but I have to make sure it's not something with the house. So I go downstairs. She's tiptoeing down behind me, and I get down because like where my bedroom was at, it was like, here's the hallway, and then there's like a bathroom, another bedroom, then my mom's bedroom. But as soon as you walk out of my room, you go down these steps, and there's like the front door, like a little landing, and then you go around this way, and it was a hallway. There was an extra bathroom and a way to go in this way. So we're creeping down the steps, and we get down to the landing, and I go to walk around, and I see a man standing there. And point blank, I mean, it was a man. He was probably 6 foot tall. He had looked like, pants on with like suspenders. He had a hat on with like a little small bill. And it was almost like he looked just as shocked to see me as I seen him. It was almost like he looked at me like, like, whoa, like, are you seeing me? And I froze. And then so my friend comes and she peeks around and she's like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, you can't see this? Like, I'm staring right at this guy. And then he just goes, and like where he walked, like I couldn't see past where the wall was at from the hallway. So then I creep in there and I look, and he was gone. So I call my mom and I said, Mom, I seen this man, and my friend, she's seen one, and like I'm seeing stuff, like we're hearing that bang again, and I'm like, you need to get home. And of course she's like, you're okay, it's just your imagination. It's just your imagination. It was always my imagination. Growing up, it was always my imagination. But, I know what's the truth. So, anyways, they didn't come back home until probably about 2 o'clock. So me and my friend sat upstairs in my bedroom, freaked out, and like huddled up underneath the blankets. But yeah, that was all, like I said, probably within the first month. So I'm going to go for now. And like I said, hopefully I'll have a new video up next week, because like I said, I have so many stories about this house. My mom lived there for 6-7 years, and I lived there for 2. But, in that 2 years time span, it was a lot of stuff had happened. And even after that, because, I would go to visit, or there'd be times that I'd have to stay there overnight, and just the stuff that I experienced was insane. Like stuff that you would see in a movie, let's put it that way. And it's just to see it with your own eyes and to experience it, I don't want to say traumatized me, but it's definitely left a massive imprint. And I can remember everything to the T. So bear with me as I get through all these episodes. And like I said, hopefully I'll have one posted next week.